It looks like a promising place.
The place I might be able to see myself.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong.
Hello and welcome to our film show where we're speaking to director Jonathan Millet. Hello, thanks for being with us. And of course, we're joined by critic Lisa Nesselson too. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Now, we're starting with Jonathan. Your film, just briefly, Ghost Trail, is out in French cinemas this week, but it premiered in Cannes in May. It was the opening film of the Semaine de la Critique sidebar. Was it your first time showing a film at Cannes? What was that experience like?
Yes. Well, it was totally amazing, of course. We had such a wild welcome and so many people who wanted to talk about it. It was a great day.
Yeah, and a real good boost for the film as well, I should imagine.
Sure.
Well, to another film that made its debut on the French Riviera, Kevin Costner's Horizon. The actor and director had long wanted to make a film about the conquest of the American West since his 1990 Oscar-winning movie Dances with Wolves. Let's get a feel for the wide open spaces of Horizon, an American saga, Chapter 1.
Lieutenant, there's no reason for you to stay here. And here you are.
The men who hunt this land, they're not going to share it with you. What you build, they will burn down.
We just got to keep going. I wanted to make a Western where there was no town, where we went in and disrupted not only the land, but the culture that had been there for thousands of years. And what happens is you're seeing a moment of probably 20 years of boiling over with people keep coming into their territory and killing game and doing things, and they just wipe it out. But that's what happened in America.
Lisa, Kevin Costner has reportedly poured tens of millions of dollars into this 4-part movie project. Do you think it was a good investment?
Well, Costner took out a few days from shooting the 3rd episode of his projected 4-part Come to the Movies saga to accompany the world premiere of Horizon in Cannes. Chapter 1 is uneven, some might say very uneven, but in addition to being awfully nice to look at, does a rather good job of acknowledging that humans come in good and bad and everything in between, and that many a soul is hardwired to keep moving, expanding, claiming, confiscating. And if that means that you have to displace the people who were there first, well, surely God or the natural order of the universe won't mind. The Civil War is raging, but our characters have their sights set on a place the handbills call Horizon, a large expanse of land in what is now Arizona that seems to be calling out for intrepid settlers to stake a claim and build it up, which in record time they do. Thing is, native tribes have lived there for a very long time and understandably see no reason to share, let alone abdicate, their ancestral lands to newcomers.
Well, Chapter 1 is out then. Chapter 2 is coming at the end of August. Some people, though, are saying that this is already a flop. One criticism being that it feels a bit more like TV. What did you think?
I disagree. To declare just a few days into its release that this is a flop seems short-sighted and more than a little bit mean, you know? The West wasn't settled in a day, and it's a big planet full of cinemas and prospective filmgoers. I would not compare this to TV. That's the idea of having to come back and buy a ticket several times. It's a motion picture designed for the very big screen. And that said, this installment does feel like an exercise in mostly introducing the characters, the better to follow their adventures in subsequent chapters.
Okay, perhaps more for the serious Western fans then. Well, now to much more contemporary subject matter. Your film, Jonathan, is set in the very recent past and was inspired by a true story, the experience of Syrian refugees in Europe, tracking those who tortured them in Bashar al-Assad's notorious prisons. Let's take a look at Ghost Trail.
Je me trompe, peut-être ce n'est pas lui. Je ne sais plus.
كنت بفضل لو إنه التقينا بحياة تانية.
Je ne peux pas rester ici.
Tu ne peux pas arrêter là. Si on s'occupe de lui, tout le cauchemar, ça s'arrête.
عم تعرض المجموعة للخطر. إذا عنده أقل شك بيقدر يختفي مرة تانية.
في محل. Ça va. شفتك لما بتعرف.
So we see the main character there, Hamid, a young Syrian man who fled to Europe after being held and tortured in prison. He's working undercover to find a man who may have been his own personal torturer.
Most of us, unless we're private detectives, learn what we think we know about how to secretly follow someone from watching movies and watching TV. When you were structuring and shooting this film, what did you learn about how to follow someone without being detected?
Well, I knew I wanted to make this espionage movie with amateur, with non-professional spies. So I wanted that my character has to learn from one step to another, how is it to make a tale, how is it to be so close to someone that he can see you. And this is one of the big line of the film, how close can he go to be sure about this man, because he has no idea about the face of the man who he's looking for.
And he recognizes him by his sense of smell a lot as well.
Yes, or his voice, or it's all about senses.
And your two main actors, Adam Bessa and Taufik Barham, they're excellent, but neither of them is Syrian. In fact, they had to learn the dialect, the language, for the film. Did you have them both in mind when you were writing this film?
No, I had no one in mind. I thought about having a Syrian comedian, but it's really difficult because the war in Syria is now, and it's really involving to have such a role. So I just made a huge cast in more than 15 countries, and then I met Adam, and I knew he was him. He has the intensity I was looking for. He has this air of gravity around him, and you can feel through his eyes all the big steps he has before.
You lived in Syria yourself. Could you have predicted the way history would unfold, including how little the outside world would seem to care about the plight of Syrian refugees? And in connection with that, how do you see France's stance on refugees in the current political climate?
No, it's difficult. Well, when I was in Syria, I was 20, so I was just discovering the world and discovering myself. I learned, of course, few things in Syria. I spent a year there, and I was talking with a lot of people from my age. And at first, it seemed an open country. I mean, there were some tourists. It was seemed nice and modern. But when you spend time there and when you go through things, you can understand that it's a dictator and that things are not so easy and you have no freedom in any ideas. And but then, it was really difficult to predict what will happen after it. Sure.
Justice seems to be the major motivation for your central character in this film. Last month, a French court issued an international arrest warrant for Bashar al-Assad for crimes against humanity. 500,000 people in Syria have died since the beginning of the war. Do you think that eventually Syrians will see justice for the horrors of the last 13 years?
It is the beginning. I mean, it all started with 10 years of hidden crimes because everyone in Europe and in the whole world said we cannot do anything in Syria because of Russia and because of China. But 2 years ago in Germany, we had the first trial, and now in France. And at the beginning, it's just symbolic. It's just about a few names, but it means something. It's the beginning of, I think, a big move and some big changes in Syria.
So do you think France is playing its full role in terms of helping out the Syrians?
No, yes. I mean, this is the first step of something that I hope could be bigger, but this is really the first step. So I could not be so optimistic. I just know that for a lot of Syrians people and Syrian advocates, it's a big thing, this trial.
And your film certainly shines a light on the experience of Syrian refugees living in Europe. Well, finally, we're returning to the wide open spaces of the United States. The Cinémathèque Française here in Paris is showing the 25 road movies that it deems indispensable. Tell us more, Lisa.
I like that the programmers assert that The Wizard of Oz is the template for the American road movie, thanks to a certain yellow brick road. I'm probably one of the few people not tied up in a car trunk who has never liked Thelma and Louise. Kevin Costner could not have been better in Clint Eastwood's Perfect World as a criminal on the lam with a young boy. Easy Rider not only changed the American film industry by proving that you could make a mint by tapping into the so-called youth market, it also holds up really well as a glimpse of America in the 1960s. And much as Thelma and Louise launched the young Brad Pitt, Easy Rider instantly established Jack Nicholson as a talent to be reckoned with. Fellini's La Strada, literally The Road, is one of those films you never, ever forget, a melancholy masterpiece that depicts the lives of its three protagonists, traveling circus performers. Now, I don't drive, I've never owned a car, but I feel as if I have through the magic of the movies.
Oh, that's impressive. A geographical and artistic journey then. Thank you very much for that roundup, Lisa. And thanks for joining us, Jonathan. A reminder that Jonathan's film Ghost Trail is in French cinemas now. We'll leave you, though, with some snippets of those cinematic road trips. Do tune in to Arts 24 next time for more movie news here on France 24.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road.
Tens of thousands of Rwandans celebrating one man. Paul Kagame has been in power for 24 years and looks set to be re-elected.
He's excellent. Our president, Paul Kagame.
He is our hero.
A faith in Kagame shared by millions of citizens.
He did the impossible, and he's the one to thank for where we are now. We have education, we have roads, hospitals, electricity everywhere.
But inequalities remain. Only a few dare to speak out.
We have a freedom of speech, but there is a limitation. That limitation, you don't go beyond of that.
One head of state, one vision, 3 decades. Watch Rwanda, the Kagame generation on France 24.